Let's talk about background. Here we can see on this page that we have set the background of the body to a specific color. And that would have been done with the background color property and then a specified color, which we did with a hex code. And that's how we got background color. But there are some other things that we can do with backgrounds. One thing is that we can add a background image. And we do that with the property background image. And the format now for the value of this is you have to do URL and then in parentheses put quotes of the image file. Now I've got my image files in a folder called images. So I'm going to put that and then the name of the file, which is science background, whatever the name you've named that file. I'm going to save that and refresh, and there I have an image. Now notice what this image looks like. If I just open it in an image, right, just view the image, this is what that image looks like. And I've added it in the background of this web page. When I do that, notice how it repeats that image over and over and over again. That's called tiled. This is also something that you can control. And the way that you control that is with the property background repeat. And repeat has several different keywords. One of them is no repeat. So if I save that and refresh, I get the background image and it doesn't repeat. It's only there one time. And on this page, that doesn't look really good, right? We can't see it. There's a couple of other things you can do. There's a repeat X. Oops. And notice then it repeats across the x-axis or horizontally. I can do a repeat Y. And that repeats then along the y-axis or right vertically. So you can put this in to repeat however you want. Then the one that it was on by default is just repeat. And if you want to do that, that's the default, so you don't have to specify that. Another thing that we can change is background attachment. So if I go down and I select background attachment, it is set on scroll by default. So another one that we can use is fixed. So now if I refresh, what happens is that background image stays put. And so as I scroll, the background image is fixed. And so it just stays there. And then another choice is to do scrolled, which is the default. And so if you want it to scroll, then you can just leave the default. And that way the background image scrolls with the page. Another thing that you can do, and this is actually easier to see if we have no repeat on here. So if I have the image here, I have what's called background position. And background position, it gives me two choices. So I can have the vertical alignment, which is top, center, bottom, or the horizontal alignment, which is left, center, right. So I get two words here. So I can say I want it center and right. Okay, so let's see what that does for me. So that positioned that one-time image, right? We have that one-time image in the center of the web page as far as vertically, and it's on the right-hand side horizontally. If I change this then to, let's see what happens if I change this to fixed. Then it becomes fixed in the center of the browser window. So the viewport, whatever part is being shown. Fixed in center. I can do center, center. All right, I can do top, center. I can do bottom, center, left, right. So you get all that kinds of flexibility with position. And it's really visible with the no repeat, but it actually affects it with the repeat as well. And it simply decides where you start the tile. So I'm saying here, since I've got this set to center, I want the tiles to start from the center and work out. And that way you won't get the, your image won't start in the corner, it actually starts in the center. So your image starts in the center and then repeats outward. Again, or you can do it in the top left. So I can do top left and refresh, and now it will build from, it'll put the image in the top left and repeat out from there. All right, so all those properties are fun properties to be able to play with. Let me get that so it just stays put. A couple of things to pay attention to. Notice how busy this background is. I like the background, but it's very loud. It's a lot of different colors, and so it really detracts my page. The other thing you have to watch is when you add a background image is that you watch the font of your text or the color of your text, because it can fade away and can be seen on some of the colors and not on others. So notice how this text is really visible on this darker color and almost not visible at all right here. So when you're going to use a background image, you want to be careful of that. One of the things that I've done that you can do is you can change the opacity on a picture if you have some image editing software that'll let you change the opacity. So here's that same image, but the opacity is only at 16%, which means you're just not seeing the same detail that we had. And so you see that opacity that just changed the image. Now all the text is too light, so we would have to go to a different color. In fact, let's do that. Okay, I changed that color of the text, and now it's way more visible. And so you want to make sure that when you're making these changes that you're careful to make it all look still very readable, right? There's another interesting part here. Notice that I left the background color. This is a good idea. Even though I've got an image for my background, you want to leave the color. If something goes wrong with the image, then if it can't be found or something, then you get your background color, that it will use that instead. But another fun thing is some image editing software will let you use transparency. JPEG doesn't do transparency, so I had to save it as a PNG, and so I got opacity with it. And when I did that, so notice it lightened it, but it's also showing through that background. Now this one was at about 50% opacity, and this one was at 16% opacity. So, but what's showing through now is the color of the background. So watch what happens if I change the color of the background, because it's transparent and the opacity is set low. I can change the color of the background color, and it comes through. It comes through that transparency. So you end up getting your color through there. If you don't want it to be impacted by any color, then you could put a white behind it, and then the white, and then it looks like that JPEG one where it's got the opacity set really low, and then just a white background. So you're seeing the actual color of the image rather than the color of the background coming through. Interesting things that you can do with background images. One last thing I want to show you is this shortcut property called background. Actually, there's one more thing I want to show you after this. So there's a background property, and it lets me do all of these in one. So I can put the color, I can put the image, I can put the repeat property, I can put the attachment property, and I can put the position property. All on one. And again, order is not significant. So on the background, I just specified all these details. I push save. It gives me exactly the same effect, but with a single property instead of having to specify each individual one. And I can leave some of them off, so it's not significant. You don't have to use all of them, but you can just combine whichever background properties you want to do that. Now here I've applied it to body, but I want you to see that we can actually apply it to any element. On my HTML file, oops, just a minute. On my HTML file, I have a div. I've separated into several different div tags. And on this one, I've identified it with a class called main content. So I can, in my style, instead of putting it on the body, I can put the background on this div that has set to main content. And I can move this background, turns out to be long, and put it down here. All right, and then I refresh. And my background is, let me put a color on that background so we can see it. So on the body, I'm going to add a background color. I'm going to go up here and capture my main color up here. Put a color back on that body. And reload so it's easier for us to see where that background shows up and see it showing up on that div. Now, let's do some fun things. Let's make that div so it doesn't do the whole thing. So I can set a width on that div and make it, I just want it to be 700 pixels, 720 pixels. So I save that and refresh it. Now that div, you see where it has that background and it's the width. And notice that that background is not anywhere else except on that main content one. I can center it. I don't know if you've seen the video on center or not. Divs are already blocked. Here I've given a specified width. The only thing I have left is to use the margin right and left the same. And I'm going to use margin auto to do that. And now I've put that background just on a section of my web page, right, just on the div. So you have lots of options with this. And you can really apply it to any element you want. For example, I could apply it to, let's see, here we go. Another place I could apply it, that background, is I could just say, I want all of my paragraphs to have this background. And so instead of applying it to div or the main background, I can apply it to the paragraph. So lots of flexibility where you